sessions, which is great. But then so you know what? You gotta pick one. And like, I have 2 kids, I can never pick one kid. But today I guess I'm forced to pick one. So if you really want to learn how I use GeoGebra with drones, I'd be happy to talk to you at lunch. But I think just based on your introduction this morning and what I heard people's background and experiences, I think I'm going to go with my origami simulation presentation. So maybe if luck has it, Samantha will have me back next year and I can do drones next year. So, thank you for having me. It's just a real pleasure to spend time with like-minded educators this morning. You know, like Lebo said, I think it's just really exciting that you've all chosen to be here today. And I'm always so blessed just to be in the presence of people who just want to learn. I think that's really inspiring. I don't have the same energy as Lebo, but Lebo was a great kickoff to our day, so thank you so much. Lebo and I actually go back a fair ways. We used to interact quite a bit on Twitter, and then had the pleasure to meet Lebo face-to-face at a conference in Syracuse, New York last fall, and it was like we just saw each other. It was like we were running down the road.
Literally, that's what happened.
Yeah, so it's really cool. But yeah, so I've been teaching mathematics for 30 years. Most of it was spent at the high school, so like I said in my introduction, I now teach the middle school 6th graders. And when I step back and look at my GeoGebra journey, to think of what I'm doing with my 6th graders now, it's just mind-blowing. Because this stuff is really sophisticated stuff, but the 6th graders, our 6th graders today are really sophisticated, right? You think about what they know and can do with technology now compared to what some of us old farts, it's unbelievable. So one of my units that I do with my students is we do an investigation on folding and building, and part of that is inspecting and creating origami simulations using GeoGebra. So we're going to jump right in. So usually when I start saying origami, people are like, I've got no origami experience. But I disagree. I think all of us have even just a little bit of origami experience. Anybody ever fold one of those little fortune teller things? Or my dad used to call them cootie catchers. All right? Probably. You ever fold a paper airplane? Probably. You ever? Oh, look at that. Yes. Beautiful. Lots of origami there. If you've ever folded a napkin, or if you've ever been on a cruise and seen the people who tend to your rooms and they fold those towels and those elaborate sculptures, that's origami, right? So I can't say that we're going to fold anything as sophisticated as that today, but I'm hoping that the principles and the ideas I show you today, you can then keep investigating yourself and then bring back to your students today, okay? So, yeah, so let's get started. So origami is super influential. There's a lot of applications of origami with engineering, with medicine. It's just mind-blowing what people are doing with origami. In fact, the Webb telescope that was just launched a couple years ago, yeah, the thing that folded out, that used that solar sail, that used origami to be able to deploy once it got out to its final destination so that it could collect the sun's rays. So we're going to start off with some simple origami simulations today, all right? So on your paper, or on your tables rather, there are little squares of paper. So I had to kind of, speaking of optimization, I had to optimize my pattern. So we went with little tiny squares. So you're going to get a chance to test your dexterity, your fine motor skills, with little tiny squares of paper. This is just printed paper. You don't have to go and buy origami paper, right? We have an abundance of paper most likely at our schools. I actually don't use worksheets. I steal all of my paper from the copy room by ring by ring by ring. And then just I got one of those old school guillotine paper cutters, right? Usually your business department or your library or your office has one of those that they haven't touched in years. So these are just squares of paper that I cut. They may not be perfectly square, but they're going to be close enough for what we're going to do today. So grab a square, and what I would ask you to do is just go ahead and fold it in half. Ah, the old hot dog and hamburger question. I knew it was coming. Plus 100. So obviously, hot dog or hamburger doesn't matter because it's a square. But thank you. must teach middle school.
I did.
All right, so when you fold that little square in half, just let it sort of open up a little bit and hold it in your hands, almost like a booklet or a pamphlet. So what do you see? Crease in the middle. Good. What else? A V. Right? That V that's formed by your piece of paper, that is called a valley fold. And I always tell students, imagine like up in New York State, in my part of the world, we have lots of rivers. We have the Hudson River, we have the Mohawk River. You should know about the Nile River, the Rhine River, the X River, whatever. So when you're looking at a map, what do you typically see in a valley? You see rivers. And those rivers are, what color? Blue on the map, right? Whether it's Google Maps or Vista Maps. So everybody please grab a blue pencil. I only have one per table. Again, I had to optimize my packing. And you're going to take that blue pencil and color that crease, that fold, blue. So you should have something like this. So in origami, there are two primary folds. One of them is the valley fold, which is what you just folded. And the other one, anybody know? Mountain fold. Good, good, good. So some people might argue, well, Mr. K, if you flip your paper over, it doesn't form a mountain fold. Yes. Yes, you're going to see some mountain folds in just a little bit. In fact, let's make a couple mountain folds. So refold your paper in half with the valley fold on the inside, so you can't see it unless you peek a little bit. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take these two flaps and fold them down to the bottom like this. So it's going to make an M, or if you look at it the other way, it's going to make a W. So you're making this kind of structure right here. A little gallery walk. Right? That valley fold should be in between two what? Mountains. So take the red pencil crayon and color your mountain folds red. On the top side, so you should see a valley, blue, between two mountains, red. Alright, so you should have something like this. Now I will do my counterclockwise.
So this is even make it. I'm sorry, I didn't see what you did.
So you fold your valley. Alright. So at this point, my 6th graders were like, Mr. K, what are we making? Are we making the swan? No. No, we're just folding a little M like this, just so you can understand some of the basic principles of origami. So let's go digital now, because the thing I love, I'm an old guy, right? I'm 53 years old in a week, and I love hands-on stuff. I'm still an analog guy. I love records, right? I love listening to vinyl records. I'm not a Spotify guy. But I do occasionally like to listen to digital music. And that's what I love about this activity, because it's a great combination of hands-on with the digital, right? Our kids, I don't know if you see it with your students, but like watching my 6th graders try to cut with a pair of scissors, it's scary, right? They can create some incredible GeoGebra, but ask them to cut a piece of paper and they're like Edward Scissorhands, right? They're like, they don't know what to do, right? But I love this activity because it's a great mix of the hands-on and the digital. So let's go digital. You already most likely have GeoGebra open. And again, if you have a question, please ask me, ask your neighbor. We have a policy or a mindset in our classroom. I have it posted in the front of my room. It says everyone in this room is a student and everyone in this room is a teacher. I saw that on Twitter years ago and I loved it. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing, right? Because we all have the ability to learn from each other and we all have the ability to teach each other. So please teach each other and learn from each other this morning. All right, so let's get into GeoGebra. Now, if you're on the GeoGebra main page, I am going to go to click the purple button that says Start Calculator. Now, one thing that Lebo kind of teased is that there's a number of calculators in GeoGebra. There's the graphing calculator, there's the geometry calculator, there's the stats calculator, there's the 3D calculator. And you're going to see some examples of all of those today, not just from my session, but through all the sessions as well. So this is what you would sort of see as a classic graphing calculator, right? You have your graphing window on this 2/3, and over here you have your sidebar. But you've got some tools, and this is where we're going to do some creating. We're going to use the GeoGebra tools. So what I would start first by doing is making a square that measures, we can make the square measure any size we want. I usually have my students make it 4 by 4. But before we do that, I'm going to simplify your construction a little bit. So if we can go to the gear in the upper right corner, and then go to settings, and then we'll go to the gear again. Please have your labeling say no new objects, all right? And then after you do that, hit the Save Settings button. Now this is where my 6th graders get triggered, because when you click Save Settings, it looks like nothing happens. You expect it to light up or click or something. It doesn't do that, but I promise you it does save the settings.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do that one more time, because I know you're all 6th graders. So click the gear. Click the gear, click Settings. So it's the gear 3 times. Gear, Settings, the gear again, and then labeling no new objects. Now, Mr. K, if we don't do that, is that a deal breaker? No. It's just going to simplify your construction, because otherwise if you don't do that, everything you construct will have a label assigned to it. It just gets a little chaotic. All right? Okay, so here we go. And again, save settings. It will save even though it looks like it doesn't. So we're going to construct a 4 by 4 segment in quadrant 1 with one of the vertices anchored at the origin. So I'm going to start at the origin, go to the right 4, up 4, left 4, back down 4. So the tool you want to look for, if you don't see these tools, click on the Tools tab here in the left-hand edge of your screen. You might see the word More. Click More so you see all the tools. Scroll down a little bit until you see the segment tool. All right, so there it is there. All right? So you're going to construct a segment that measures 4 by 4. So construct the segment that goes, square that's 4 by 4. So we're going to just click the segment tool, and I'm going to start at 0. Go over to 4. And then from 4 on the x-axis up to 4, 4. The nice thing is it's going to kind of snap to the grid. If it doesn't, that's okay. And then from 4, 4 back over to 0, 4 on the y. And then from 0, 4 back down to your origin. Usually I have a student that says, Mr. K, do we still have to draw those segments on the axes? Because isn't the axis kind of like a segment? No, you need to construct those segments. All right? So that square you made there, that represents what?
Your paper.
Your paper. Okay? Again, I just made a 4 by 4. You can make it 8 by 8, 10 by 10. The size is arbitrary. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to construct our fold. Again, using the segment tool. So I'll let you decide whether you want them to go vertically or horizontally. It doesn't matter. All right? I'm going to go vertically. That's what I'm going to do. So staying with the segment tool, start at 2, 4 down to 2, 0. And then 1, 4 down to 1, 0. Yes, question.
Why you not use the tools, you just use segment? Is there some reason to that? Why you didn't use like square tool? Is there
Or polygon tool.
Oh, the polygon tool. Yeah, you can use the polygon tool if you want.
Just
Try it, see what happens. Yeah? I don't think, Lebo, your computer's up here, you want it? Sorry.
You know what to do? Okay, so we're looking for segment tool.
It doesn't bother me, I just didn't know if you wanted it. Sorry. Thank you very much for offering to let me use that. Appreciate it. Okay. Now, very important. After you're done with the tool, you have to put the tool away. So to put the tool away, there's 2 ways to do that. Actually, there's 3. The easiest way is to press the escape key on your keyboard. So once you've drawn all your segments like that, hit the escape key on your keyboard, and your tool is now put away. The other way to do it is, did you see that circle with the white arrow in it? Down here? All right, that means you have a tool currently selected. So instead of hitting the escape key, you can also click on that right there, and that will also put the tool away.
Can you also just click on white?
Do that, say again?
Can you also just click on white?
On white?
No, this is the tool, it's again.
Like here? Like you're saying like between tools? Yeah, that doesn't do it for me.
I'm an old
Geometry Sketchpad! Yes! Yes! Who's old enough to know Geometry Sketchpad? Oh, so good. Good was the replacement for that. I think somebody's still trying to keep Geometry Sketchpad.
Yes, they are.
Like an archive, right?
Yeah. I got a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I might have to ask you. So the most amazing lab I used to do with my kids with that, back in the day when we had these things called labs, we went in and there were like these boxes with screens on top of them. We did geometry sketchpad kaleidoscope activity where we created a virtual kaleidoscope and made it move and just blew their minds. It was like LSD, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Just not, it was just not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all the construction that was
Doing
going on
math,
in the
like
background. And it was step-by-step constructions again, and I still have a copy of it, and I'm just wondering if GeoGebra might take that challenge on. To be able to put together the lab that creates the moving kaleidoscope.
I would say I've never searched, but I bet if you
There
search
is
the resources, there's probably
absolutely.
kaleidoscopes out
Yeah,
there.
there's tons. I made one.
Yeah.
GeoGebra.
Yeah.
All right. So thanks for that. A little flashback to Geometry Sketchpad. So what we need to do now is we need to color our folders.
Here's a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, question.
No, you said 3. So the first one is press escape, the second one's that purple.
Oh, to put
What's
the tools
third
away.
one?
The third way to put your tool away is if you go through the tools and you find the move tool.
Okay.
That also puts your tool in because now you're back on sort of the cursor. Okay, great. All right, so let's color our segments so we can get some folding going. So let's start with our valley fold. So again, make sure you put your tool away by pressing escape. Select that segment, and now you see a little paint bucket where you can change the format of your segment. Click the paint bucket, and your initial instinct is to select blue. The problem is, the Origami Simulator that we're about to use in a few minutes needs a specific color of blue, and that's not it. So what do you think we have to click on to get the shade that we need? Click
Where's
the plus.
pink button? I'm sorry.
So click on your segment,
Okay.
and then you should see a little paint bucket show up. Click on your segment. No, don't click the point. Yeah, it's to the middle. To the middle. Okay, so go ahead and hit the paint bucket, hit the plus sign, and now you see all of the colors available to you. Okay? So at this point, I would have my 6th graders guess which shade of blue we're going to use. Anybody want to take a guess? The royal blue. It's the I call it the shaker blue because it's the color for our school. It's this one right here under the turquoise. Now, if you know anything about RGB values, it is the bluest blue. All right? It has an RGB of 00255. No red, no green, all blue, all day. All right? Now, you should see your segment is now blue. Okay? Now you're going to go ahead and color the other 2 segments red, and you want to get the reddest red, that fire engine red. It's right here at the top of the color scale. That has an RGB of 25500, so it's on the table. Okay? Oh. All right, so we got that, red, and that. Now, while we're here in the settings, I want to show you also how to control the amount of fold. And actually, it's almost like we planned it. Levo actually showed us, without showing us, how to change the percentage of fold. So if we leave it like this, when we do this, let me grab just a blank square. Let's deal with these things. All right, so if I go back to my very, very first folder. So what percentage do you think I folded this? I folded it. So you're thinking 50 because you folded it. But what percent is this fold right here? That's 50%. So a 90-degree angle is what percent? 50%. So if I fold it all the way, it's what? That's 100%. Okay? If I didn't fold it at all, what percent fold is it?
0.
Right. Okay? So that's kind of an interesting conversation to have with kids, that this is 0, 90 degrees is 50%, all the way is 100%. So I want to tell the Origami Simulator to fold those 100% of the way. So the place to do that is, again, select your fold, select your line, your segment, click on the Style tab, and then which slider do you think we use to control that fold percentage? Oh, I think I lost everybody. All right, let me go back again. All right, that's right. It was like crickets in here. So click on your segment, and you probably see the Color tab. Click on the Style tab just to the right. And which slider do we use to control the percentage?
So I don't see those tabs up there.
Oh.
I just see my color.
All right, so let's rewind a little bit. Click it. Make sure you click on the segment. Don't click on the point. Click on the segment. Click the paint bucket. Click the plus, and you should see the Style tab. Yes? Not up, but now we're okay. Thank you for that. All right.
The line opacity?
Yes, it's the line opacity or
Because it
opacity,
has-
however you decide to say it. So we want to crank those up to 100%
On each one.
on each one, each of the colored ones. Mr. K, do we do the ones on the outside, the square? No.
Oh, you just have to adjust your screen.
So all the colors, yes?
All three colors, yes. All three folds should be 100%. Now, you might have an origami model a little bit that has a 90-degree angle. In that case, you want to have a 50% fold. And that will keep it at a 90-degree angle. If you fold something that makes, and this is where I want to give a little plug to the GeoGebra people. I wish that that line opacity could be not increments of 5%. Because there might be a fold I want to be like 37.5% to make it specific, right? All right? But for most of the origami we do, these fold percentages are perfect.
And what, so
Yeah,
how does that relate to the folding part? Is that, you're
we're
getting
almost there.
Okay, good.
Almost there, Dawn, I promise you. I promise you, we're almost there. And that's I'm gonna answer your question. Louis, I'm gonna answer your question that you asked Lebo a little while ago. All right? So everyone have someone that looks like that? Did you notice that as you question?
So I was trying to look on that third segment and to make it, but it comes out.
It looks like you might have two. So now I got rid of one of them, so now I'm making
Oh,
All right. So as you change the opacity of that segment, it gets brighter. In GeoGebra, you may not have noticed that. It's very subtle. When it's at its default at 70, it's a little bit more faded. If you move it down even further, it's going to be even lighter. Here, it's going to be nice and bright, 100%. Okay. We need to do one last thing before we send this to a different website. We got to turn off the X and Y axis because we don't want those to show up in our construction. So the grid is okay, but anybody know how to turn off the X and Y axis that's not named Lebo? Samantha?
And the default is 7.
Go to your settings here, and then just turn off the show axis. Okay? All right. So at this point, Dawn's like ready, like, okay, Mark, I want to see how we fold this now. Like, I don't see any folding happening here. So Lewis asked a great question about, does GeoGebra work well with other platforms? And the answer to that is yes. All right. So anybody here use Desmos?
Oh my God.
Wow, we got a hallelujah over there. So Desmos is another, I would say, a friendly competitor of GeoGebra.
When I'm in algebra, it's
You're not allowed to say that. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know. So,
when I'm in algebra.
yeah, but I mean, there's, yeah,
GeoGebra for geometry.
yeah. So, you know, I would say all these platforms play nicely together. You know, there's a great sense of collaboration and cooperation, but also maybe a little competition too. Anybody here have the Mathagon Polypad?
Yep.
Another great tool. I love using that. So there's each of these tools kind of do some different things and behave differently. So, but the nice thing about GeoGebra is that you have these download options, all right? So you might have seen real quick when Lebo was showing the link to all the tutorials, you can 3D print from GeoGebra. So anything that you create in the 3D calculator, you can send as an STL file to a 3D printer. And you can also send files to laser cutters and to vinyl sticker makers like a Cricut. So if anybody has a Cricut, anything you make in GeoGebra, you can send to the Cricut, which is really wild. So what we're going to do is go to 3 bars in the upper left corner, and then go to Download As. Oop. 3 bars, Download As. Let's see if I can get to it. There we go. And we want to download it as an SVG image.
Which stands for what?
Scaled Vector Graphic. Did I pass?
I don't know.
Thanks, Monique. SVG stands for Scaled Vector Graphic. Anybody know ever hear of an AxiDraw? Oh. I've made some beautiful things in GeoGebra and sent it to an AxiDraw, which is a robotic drawing machine. Really, really, really cool.
Where do you find this?
What's that?
Where do you find that? That sounds really cool.
Oh, just look it up. Amazon might have it. I don't know. I got a grant for 1 year ago. It was really pretty wild. All right, so SVG. Okay? So now you've downloaded this SVG file. Now we're going to send it to the Origami Simulator. So open up a new tab and search for something called the Origami Simulator. It's origamisimulator.org. So usually at this point, when my 6th graders open up the Origami Simulator, I hear a lot of whoa, whoa, whoa. So we're gonna get that prerequisite 2 minutes of playtime. Play with the Origami Simulator for 2 minutes. Get it out of your system before we bring in our measly little children. See what you can do with the Origami Simulator. Get used to the tools. Check out the different controls. I see people making this model breathe. Right? This is an amazing construction right here. It looks alive, doesn't it? Really magical to watch. In the bottom left-hand corner, you see this button that says strain. So if you go from material mode to strain mode, you'll see it lights up almost like the rain map, or for us northerners, the snow map. So what is that showing? Anybody know? Like, what are those colors indicating? Tension, stress, the paper's going through. If you've ever folded some really complicated origami that has multiple layers, the more layers you add to the paper, the more stress and strain that the paper goes through, and it has a tendency to maybe rip, unless you have really, really forgiving paper. All right? Please click on the tab on the top that says pattern. That is the pattern for what you were just playing with. What do you see?
Red and blue.
What's that?
Red and blue lines.
Red and blue. Lots of valley folds, lots of mountain folds, in different shades as well. The valley folds are all bright blue, but the mountain folds, valley folds are bright blue, but the mountain folds are a little bit lighter. Okay? So we're not going to fold that today. Don't worry. But let's take a look and see what we made before we get to something a little more sophisticated. So, anybody think they can figure out how to get our GeoGebra model into the Origami Simulator? Don, what'd you do?
File import.
File import. File in the upper left corner. Import. Get your GeoGebra export. Now you get this here. I have never really played with this, other than you can do, if you have any experience with doing curved origami, you can do ones that contain curves. Don't check that for today though, because we didn't do any curves. Go ahead and hit the green import SVG button. You might get a warning that looks like this. This just tells me that the border that I used for my square wasn't the proper shade of black, but it's not going to affect the performance of our fold. So go ahead and ignore that. There's our crease pattern. go to the simulation and fold away. Right? And there it is right there. And if you fold it 100% using that slider, it'll completely flatten out. Bless you. Right?
Why isn't it alive?
Oh, it's more like
Yours is on string.
because you don't have sophistication. And that has another twist. Yeah, it's not. It's just because ours is not as common. It doesn't have very fold where it's that first example work
It had
has
to get
lots of
like shaded red.
By itself?
Right, yes.
I don't think mine does because.
Turn off your X and Y axis. So go to your email and do that. Ah, nice. So you didn't get the middle.
I did get the middle.
Oh, so we export it. But
Right,
it
blue.
doesn't like it.
Maybe think just like that royal. Yeah, that's more of a purple. So look at that.
Does the color blue matter or?
Ugly mass.
Okay.
You want to use one under the first. Yeah.
Oh, so it's straight blue. Okay. And the red straight red.
Yep, so hit that, yep. Now.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah, so if any of your creases didn't show, it's because you didn't pick the proper shape of your red. Then other than that,
understand that you can.
good.
This
So you're still in the stream. I would correct you.
it's what made
You can rotate. Yeah.
That is why.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's the other.
All right. So that looks good.
So red is, yeah.
So I always tell the kids, look at, you just made yourself a little taco boat, right? You know those little stands that you put the tacos into, don't flop over and dump all your fillings out? Like you just made a little origami taco boat. Really super simple. All right, now, let's level up our fold a little bit. So this is something where, once I figured out how to do this, I kind of went down that rabbit hole. And I started doing all these different origami folds and then unfolding them and looking at whether I mounted folds or valley folds, and that's what the students started doing. So let's do something a little more, this question.
Is there a way you can add more objects? Like two of them in one screen?
Yes, you can do multiples. So if I go back to my opening slide here. Yep, so here's an example where you can create multiple objects in GeoGebra, and then when you download that SVG and bring it into the Origami Simulator, now I've got 4 models folding at once. So absolutely you can do that. Yeah, great question.
And this, you did this is GIF?
So yeah, then I created recorded a GIF. Yep. Or
But that would
GIF
be
if you
something
prefer.
else, right?
It's not GIF, it's GIF.
The left one.
All right, so let's try a new little origami fold that has maybe a little bit more going on and maybe a little more wow factor to it than our simple little taco fold that we made. So grab a new piece of paper. And again, I'm going to start you off with a simple little valley fold, but don't color it yet. All right, we're going to save the coloring until the end. Okay. So now what I want to do is, let me show you. I'm going to go behind the curtain here for a second. So I wasn't quite sure how I was going to get scissors down here through TSA, so I said, you know what? I think we can probably do without. So we're just going to do a little cutting, but we're going to do a tear instead. So let me make this. And then I will show you what I would like you to try to make. Okay. So we're going to try and make this little guy right here. Ooh, thank you for that. Alright. So I'm going to see if you can work with your friends, we're all friends, see if you can make that.
Move it to another crease and just
Yes, if you'd like me to animate it like Sonia asked me to, I would be happy to animate it. Flash. No, I'm doing it. Sorry, you didn't get a chance to see it. So here's what it looks like flat. Yes! So Marianne is a teacher. So if you need help, please see Marianne. Yes, I can tell. Oh, yeah. It's on both. Beautiful. All right. Ah, there we go. We got another one. Joan is also a teacher. All right, so you come here to the table number 1.
You got it. Yeah.
Okay. Plenty. Yes, that's right. 2 cuts. Here's what it looks like flat. So there's a folded in half cycles. So you might just kind of forward that half one. Did you get it? Ah, good. So we got a couple more teachers here, and Linda and Stacy. So if you are ready, and you are ready to create your crease pattern, go ahead to GeoGebra and see if you can create that crease pattern. And if you want to create it side by side your other one, you certainly may. Or if you want to start new, you can as well. I'm going to create it here, why not? And back to your question, Doctor, about why don't I use the polygon tool or something like that. Oh, Professor. So again, I work with 6th graders. GeoGebra can be, for those of you that have GeoGebra experience, GeoGebra's got a lot going on. A lot. And there are ways to create sort of custom toolbars where you can hide tools and that, but from my perspective, with my 6th graders, I try and keep it as simple as possible, so I just have them stick with the segment tool. Although, once you get into more sophisticated ones, then they start getting into maybe like some perpendicular bisector tools, midpoint tool, angle bisector, but we can do all of this with just a segment tool. Yes?
I think when you are creating SWG5, it will be a polygon tool. It will be a problem because you have it in the background. So that's why you need to do
I think you're right. All right, so I'm going to start constructing the crease pattern for this little, this is like a little cutout box. It's kind of neat, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? Kind of neat little pop-out card. All right, so again, get the segment tool. And you can start with that 4x4 square again. And a hush falls over the crowd. And I also invite you to use your colored pencils and make some colors, because that will help guide you as you construct your segments and also get your color choices down. So we do have a mixture of mountain and valley folds. Alright, so as far as mountain valley folds, I have just this. So you want to be careful how you construct that fold, because you have 2 parts that are red with that blue part in the middle. So you actually have to construct that as how many segments? It's actually 3 separate segments, correct? You can't go all the way from the top to the bottom. You're going to have to construct it as 3 separate segments. Oh, that might be something different, Paul. That could be something different. Ah, so you made something different. Yours is different than mine, but I love it. All right. You're doing kind of the back side. You've got some extra folds, and that's okay. Add it. See what happens. I think I'm missing a couple of valley folds. I just realized I was missing some valley folds.
Can I see?
Don't cover the edges. Don't segments.
And then, what else do we add to our construction?
The cuts.
Cut. Right, so the cuts are green. And you have to get the greenest green, which is 0 to 55, 0. Okay? So, inevitably, my students will say, Mr. K, how do we color the cuts? Well, just kind of color alongside it. Just don't get anything on the tables, although these black tables will hide that colored pencil. But basically, you have something like this. That's your crease pattern.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we also have to talk percentages too. All right, so let me get my segments going here.
Use the segment tool again.
Yeah, I find that the segment tool is just, it's one-stop shopping, right? It's just easy, the kids can manipulate it nicely. But again, in some cases, you may need to use like the midpoint tool or the perpendicular bisectors tool, depending on the complexity of your model. Right? Remember to put your tool away before you start doing your coloring. Hit that escape key after you've drawn your segments, and then you can do your coloring. Now, as far as colors go, right? We want to make sure we pick the bluest blue for our valley folds. If you want to select multiple, like color multiple at once, hold the control button and click, and then you can select multiple objects at the same time. It's red. Yep, and please feel free to jump in and help each other out.
But I have a question.
Yes.
If you interchange, because I think this is what you did. If you interchange, and I think this is what you did. So it's
Yeah, so
on the other side. Also a question.
if you were to color the other side of the paper, you get a totally different model.
Oh, you
Well, not a different model, it would just be kind of like a mirror image of the other side. Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. Then your colors are different. So now you can add.
How did you do it? Oh, so let's check it out.
Yeah, it would work.
I think I did the
This
way
way and
you
this way.
Oh, so you do this.
Right.
So question.
Yes.
So if I have both of them.
Yes.
When you announce it.
It's going to download the entire thing in one
Yeah,
SVG.
so you could do it upside down.
So this is what people.
And then
We gotta
then
make
upload
this
it.
green.
Yeah, so you're going to see two models side by side in Origami Simulator. Yep. You're welcome. Yes. I think if you did it as one or two, it doesn't matter. Yep. Yeah. Because technically, for us, if you were to cut that, you make one cut. But I think if you had it as two separate, it really would make sense.
And you can do more than both.
Yeah, it folds individually.
I
This,
did them all of, like how they have.
this can't be one continuous. All right, I'm going to go ahead and download my SVG. Oh, question, great.
Can we get pure green?
Pure green. Yeah, so
I can't find pure green.
like a lime green. It's the one above the turquoise. Yep. All right. Here we go. Download as SVG. Back to the Origami Simulator file. Import.
Yeah, I just did, I just picked it.
Import that SVG. Ignore that, and there you go.
GeoGebra export.
Yep, you want to go to File, GeoGebra Export, download it as an SVG. And there they are side by side. Oh, you got a little twist, which is kind of cool too. Bob Ross would call that a happy accident, right? Right, so let's go back to your GeoGebra model and see if we
Oh,
can
yeah,
figure
the
out
green
what
ones.
Oh, so this, so right here you got, well, first of all, this. Yeah, so I think that's causing a problem. Because actually you want to look at those as three separate. So you've got blue, red, blue. So you might have to delete that segment that goes across. And then, no, just like tap it. The backspace. Right. And then you can go, yeah, just put one. Yeah, so you need a segment to go from there to there, 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 there. Three separate. No, so you can go from this point right here to the midpoint of the green. Yeah.
Mark, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
I somehow turned.
That shouldn't matter.
It shouldn't matter, okay. So then,
Yep.
thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Samantha, how am I doing on time?
You have, your hand
So
Wait, hold on.
we can easily, well, I can easily do more than an hour.
We are having so much fun, we couldn't.
Yeah.
Next year.
I would love to. So again, like this is like a great way to explore geometric concepts. I think at pretty much any age level. You know, I'm doing this with 6th graders. I can see doing this with high school geometry students. I can certainly see this as an adult. Like forget paint sip. Let's do GeoGebra and sip, right? That'd be a cool thing. Wow. I'm glad. Thank you, Linda. Thank you for giving me a level of love on that one. Everyone's so focused on their GeoGebra, they were like, what is this? Thanks, Melissa.
I'm right there.
But if you have any questions at all, you want to learn more, please feel free to email me. I believe my contact information has been shared on the program.
I'll do the presenters.
Yeah, so if you go to presenters. The other thing that Samantha was kind enough to share is that there is a GeoGebra folder that I have and a Google Drive folder of all these insane.
It doesn't work.
What does work?
Oh,
Oh, because we can't share folders. That's well, the Google Drive folder should work, right? So this is just like. Yeah, you can just email me. I can say like, but this is a Google Drive folder of. You can see I get kind of crazy about this. Like when my wife is sitting at home watching Instagram on the couch, I'm sitting playing with GeoGebra. But like there's our little simple cut that we made. And again, this would be a great thing to do with optimization, going back to that one that Lebo showed. Take a piece of paper, add your segments to GeoGebra, make your cuts, and then fold it digitally using the Origami Simulator. So, question?
What should we save it as if we want to reopen it later?
Yeah, so if you want to save your GeoGebra construction.
Not the GeoGebra, the simulator.
Oh, so you've already got the files you downloaded, so you can just always upload those back up here.
Oh.
You can just bookmark the website, but there's no like you're not building an account here like we do with your GeoGebra. So it's just a site that you can just upload to. You don't have to create an account. Right? Yeah. So there's if you go into the where is that? It's under file. Yeah, oh, and by the way, one quick. I'm sorry if I'm taking time from my next person. Take a look sometime at their examples. Like the examples are absolutely mind-blowing.
but can you save it at GIF if you did it?
You can create GIFs, yes. So if you go to File, Record Animated GIF.
Oh, on your computer.
Yep. But these models are just unbelievable. And there's the pattern for it.
Look at this garbage. I know, right?
Okay? So thank you so much for having me.